Hello viewers, the moment has finally come. After all, we had gone through the digging, the discovery, the disbelief. It was time to open the chest. Part 2 picks up where we left off, with this ancient, sealed box standing before us in that hidden underground room, encircled by symbols, relics, and an almost sacred silence. The atmosphere was incredibly tense. We removed as much of the chest's surface as we could, and found strange engravings that were unrelated to any language we knew. Some of the symbols looked like ancient characters, perhaps Arabic or Sanskrit, but others were entirely unlike anything we had ever seen, like a forgotten dialect or a secret code. We took precautions before opening the cavity, including gloves, lighting, extra cameras, and even someone monitoring the air inside in case of mildew, gas, or decomposition. This was more than just a jab. It appeared to be the sort of important excavation that would be studied for years by archaeologists. It took a while to click, and the corroded clasp had to be gradually loosened. It was a tiny sound, but to us, it sounded like a thunderclap. We were utterly shocked by what we saw when we carefully lifted the lid while holding our breath. Inside were layers of darkened old wrapping material lined perfectly, each fold concealing something. When we opened the topmost package, we found a small leather-bound book with gold-lined edges, delicate pages, and handwritten symbols and writing that matched the chest's exterior. The book appeared to be a journal, or even a record, penned by a long-deceased individual. It told a story in part about someone burying valuables, avoiding danger, and performing protective rites. But the entries came to a sudden end, as though the writer had never had time to complete them. Beneath the book were small canisters wrapped in additional cloth. One had a variety of ancient coins, including Roman, Ottoman, and probably some from civilizations we couldn't even identify. In another, we found a pouch that had crumbled when we touched it, containing rough-cut but clearly valuable gemstones. Then something strange showed up. A sealed metal cylinder with a spiral pattern and a tight cap that was heavier than it looked. We haven't opened that yet. Specialists might be needed. Perhaps the most unsettling item was a small obsidian figurine that resembled a human but had elongated features, empty eyes, and symbols carved into its chest. It felt powerful not in a magical way, but in the sense that it radiated importance, and appeared to be a part of something much greater than simple treasure. After gradually expanding the chamber, we discovered what appeared to be a hidden alcove behind the original location of the chest. It contained a rotten wooden frame that might have once been a shelf, as well as a few other items wrapped in cloth. One was a crisply waxed scroll, folded and undamaged. We haven't opened that either, because we're waiting on expert advice. But it's clear now that this place was used for more than just hiding treasure. In the midst of chaos, it functioned as a haven, a place for rituals, and perhaps a final resting place for knowledge or tradition. There was a reason for everything. Someone wanted these things to be protected, hidden from prying eyes, or even forgotten about centuries ago. We stepped back from the finding for a moment to gather our thoughts and take in what we had just learned. The deeper meaning was starting to show. Rare goods, gold, and money were no longer the only topics of discussion. This story was about a person. We were the next chapter in a story that had once been lived in, feared, guarded, and buried by someone. But there was more. As we cleared loose stones from the chamber walls, we noticed a small draft-cold air coming from behind one section. The smallest echo we heard when we tapped on it was that of empty space. Is there a different chamber? We carefully removed the stones one by one, and sure enough, a narrow tunnel that went deeper into the earth appeared. It was barely large enough to pass through. This appeared to be a pivotal moment. Shall we go on? Do we need to call the police? Shall we stop and take a recording? After much discussion, curiosity and maybe fate decided to take us on. We tied a rope line, set up lights, and started to slink into the night. The tunnel was small, damp, and felt abandoned for a long time. About 15 meters in, it opened into a small subterranean space, and then everything changed again. The walls were lined with precise, detailed stone sculptures that told what seemed to be a story in pictures. They showed ships, flames, people fleeing, royal symbols, and, finally, a large box being buried beneath a mountain. Were we exactly where the carvings showed us? Was a royal escape planned here? The hidden legacy of a lost kingdom. It's clear that this is much more than a buried chest, even though we don't yet know. This piece of history was intentionally buried so that it would either be forgotten or preserved for someone like us to find. We labeled all the symbols, made notes, and have already started sending images to historians and archaeologists for help. There have been enthusiastic responses from some. Others have warned us that places like these could lead to international debates about cultural heritage, ownership, and preservation if they are not properly managed. But we weren't here to steal or profit. Finding, educating, and disseminating the truth was our goal. And it may take months or even years before we fully understand what we have found. We crawled back out of the tunnel to close out the day in complete silence. No one spoke for several minutes. We couldn't handle what we had found, witnessed, and experienced, despite the fact that our cameras had caught it all. Our emotions recognized that this was something far larger than we could have ever imagined. We thought we were just exploring an old wall. There are mysteries, rituals, treasure, and symbols that are only now becoming clear, and we are at the start of a lost saga. We came to the simple but profound conclusion that we had not only found something invaluable, but also something that would never be forgotten after we closed the chest's lid and took one last look around that ancient secret room. Something that, until now, was never meant to be seen again. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. See you in next video.